What public officials are in attendance this evening?
Yes, sir. Mayor Jamie Slutz.
Here.
Safety Service Director Renee Baker.
Here.
Chief Deputy Auditor Stephanie Myers.
Here.
Assistant Law Director Edmund Mack. Chief Counsel Earl Wise Jr.
Here.
City Engineer Alex Pitts.
Here.
Director of Development Ted Hernkane.
Here.
Fire Chief Matthew Heck.
Here.
And Income Tax Budget Director Lori Katagides-Boron.
Here.
Is there anyone? Okay. Street Superintendent Tom Burgasser.
Here.
Now, is there anyone I missed? That's it, Mr. Parliamentarian.
Thank you. I just want to let it known, 8 members of council are present. Mark Lombardi was not able to attend this evening as he continues to recover. We also have council president here. Would also like to announce that we have our newest member of council, who is replacement for Mr. Michael Snee. John Packley was chosen just this evening, so I'm sworn in. John, just so you know, there's no expectations for you this evening but to observe. But if you have a comment, feel free to speak up.
Thank you.
But obviously, there's no,
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
no problem. For those of you that aren't familiar with Mr. Packley, he has served in the past 2 terms on our local school board as well, so he does have some experience in this realm. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Later, we will, at the end of all of our business, I will open it up for committee of the whole discussion. We do have to discuss how we want to move forward with the committee assignments with the new council member. So with that said, community development.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I do not have any old business, but I do have a new item. Planning Commission recommendation, rezoning request. At the August 14th meeting, the City Planning Commission recommended approval of the following rezoning request. So rezoning of the CJ Mack Enterprise LLC located at 1st Street Northeast, parcels 610-734, 610-733, 610-732, 602-649, 610-874. So the zone change is from B1 local business and RM-1 multiple family residential to B3 general business. The applicant is CJ Mack Enterprise LLC, and the proposed use is the car sales lot. Someone would like to come up from administration and give us an overview of this request. Mr. Hurricane, thank you.
Councilwoman Creamer, thank you. These are 5 lots on the southwest corner of 1st Street Northeast and Lake Avenue. As you can see on the map, 3 of the parcels, the top ones, 91, 2, and 3, are currently zoned B1, and the 2 parcels to the south of those are zoned RM1. The applicant wishes to rezone all 5 to the B3 zoning district. The applicant and property owners, Edwin and Angela McGlumphy, are here, and if you would like them to talk a little bit about their proposed use, if the rezoning is approved, they can certainly do that.
That would be great. Thank you. Yes.
Why don't you guys come up to that microphone right there.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Angela McGlumphy. This is my husband, Edwin. We both own CJ Mack Enterprise LLC. Right now we do currently have 2 lot locations. One of them we will be leaving, so we're looking at Massillon becoming our main lot after that, is what we're looking at. So we have a lot in Navarre, and we have one in North Canton right now. We will no longer have North Canton, and so this is looking at Massillon. We're going to expand to there.
We've been in, thank you. We've been in North Canton off the Expressway 77 on Sunset Strip. A lot of people are familiar with Cracker Barrel, the old Harley Davidson, which is now John Deere, the yellow Corvette up on top of the building. We've been right next door there for almost 8 years. Roto-Rooter, we had chose not to purchase that property at the time because we were just growing. We needed more frontage. So Massillon had come available, and we purchased that property with the idea of that move. In the meantime, we purchased from Gojo out in Navarre what most people are familiar with, the Petty's boat. We've been there. It's our 5th month now, and if you guys go by there, a lot of changes have happened on a positive direction. So we do have our car business there as well. So we're excited with regards to Massillon in that corner area. There's a ton of traffic there. We are familiar with Highway Tire. We've done a lot of business with those guys over the year, and then with the gas station and such. We think it's a good fit, not just for the community, but to draw, from outside the community as well. So,
How many employees do you currently have?
well, on that site, we'll have just one to manage the lot.
And then we're in and out of all of them.
Yeah.
We're on the road
yes.
a lot more. He is more, I'm more administrative, I'm more hands-on in everything with all the lots, so I bounce around. He's on the road. He's on the road a lot, doing auctions, things like that, keeping things moving. So we do have staff that keeps the lot going during hours, but we are always available locally, so.
And we keep up on the properties as well. We really maintain them. And normally, like she said, I'm at auctions driving the inventory, but we'll drive the inventory through Navarre, and then there won't be mechanics and maintenance on site. It'll just be car sales. All that'll handle and funnel from Navarre over to Massillon.
Mr. Lewis?
My biggest question is, what are the plans for entrance and exit of the property? And bluntly, what assurances we have that they won't happen at that actual corner that's already heavily congested?
Well, unlike Highway Tire, which pretty much the whole corner is an entry for those guys, there was an entryway that was already existing that we pretty much just widened out.
On the First Street side.
On the First Street side. We agree totally. I mean, we're local. We live in Canal Fulton, so we travel regularly through that area, but we won't be coming in off of Lake. Sorry. You'll make the turn, and you got plenty of room. I forget what the measurement was, but there's plenty of room to enter through there.
Any other questions?
So these 5 lots, I'm sorry.
So these 5 lots that will be rezoning to B3, did you request to maybe put them all on one lot, or at least make them like 2 lots? Or you're gonna leave it 5 separate lots? I'm just wondering, if you sell the property down the road, now we got 5 small properties, some of them that just had homes on them, now they're zoned B3, and then down from that, you start homes. So is it like, are we better that this should all be put on one lot?
So to answer Mr. Lewis's question, if the rezoning is approved, and it's requested because in our zoning code, outdoor car lots are permitted uses in the B3 district, which is why they're doing this. There will still have to be a full site plan application submission with plans approved by the city engineer and for ingress and egress and all those other things. So there are additional governmental steps that they'll have to go through before they can open. The site plan will probably take care of most of everyone's concerns, whether it should be one lot, where the cars come in and out of for customer traffic and things like that. So that normal process will still
Right.
occur here in the.
And if they're all B3, then it's no problem putting it all on one lot?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Welcome to Massillon.
Hey, no problem.
Ms. Cunningham?
Thank you. If I'm thinking of this correctly, the corner lot, Lake and First Street, and as you come down from, there's like a tow motor or some kind of little device that's sitting on the corner. I don't know if it's a digger or something, and like a little trailer right there on the corner. Is that your
A
property?
trailer, yes.
Yeah,
Gray,
okay.
It's a,
And then as you go south, there's a bug, I'm sorry. Then there's a couple more lots. Then there's a 2-story blue house.
Yes.
Will that house be coming down?
no, we don't own that, and the city owns the lot prior to that. So there would be, the city of Massillon owns the lot before the blue house. After the blue house, we own all that as well.
Where there's some like semi
Yeah,
trucks
which
sitting?
we own that as well, which is already zoned B3.
Okay.
So we're pretty much just trying to
But that house is going to stay there.
Blue House, we have no influence on that Blue House at this.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions from council? All right, thank you very much. Thank you,
Thanks
Mr.
for having
Hurricane.
us.
Mrs. Kramer, the only thing I would add is the Planning Commission approved this last month, and as part of the application process, the applicants did hold a meeting for affected residents within the 300-foot radius at which no one attended. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing more for community development.
Economic development.
I have nothing for economic development today.
Health, welfare, and building regulation.
Nothing at this time.
Noise ordinance. Is that coming up for third reading?
Yes.
If I may make a recommendation, if that's okay. Since the chief author has been undergoing recovery from a health procedure, maybe it would be in the best interest of this council to table it for a little longer so that he can return and help lead the discussion. Maybe we make it like a table until, mid-October to give us a couple more weeks.
I think that would be a wise choice.
Is that okay? All right.
Okay, thank you.
Parks and Rec,
I have nothing for Parks and Recs this evening.
Police and Fire. I don't believe there is anything new in Police and Fire. Public Utilities.
Good evening. We do have an item on tonight's agenda. It is to please prepare legislation to authorize the city to enter into the Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council, NOPEC, and execute and deliver the agreement establishing NOPEC and approving the bylaws. There's a subsequent approval of the plan of operation and governance that follows, both having to do with the same agency and information. This would be replacing the aggregate company consultants that we use now for electricity, to the best of my knowledge. And I'd like to call up Renee and Brenda to speak a little bit more.
Good evening. So I bring this legislation, our current consultants that we deal with for our energy aggregate will be coming due in May. So, and there's sometimes there's provisions and how long it takes to start a new aggregation. So I wanted to get ahead of the game and have decided that I would like to join NOPEC, which is kind of like a quasi-governmental organization that does have to follow the revised code, just like government agencies do. And by doing this, the more municipalities that join, obviously you get better rates. But not only do they negotiate our aggregation, our rates for electricity, there's lots of other benefits to joining the NOPEC organization, which include various things like grants. There's actually 2 grants that would be available to the city. There's also loans. The loans obviously would be for energy savings loans, whether it be roofs, HVAC, windows, things like that on our aging buildings. Those loans would be not only available to for the city buildings, but also to business owners. It doesn't even have to be new business owners. They could be current business owners. They could be landlords. They also give sponsorships back into the community, so to sponsor some of our community events that we have, they participate in those things as well. So I felt that this organization, not only would they do our aggregation for electricity for our residents, but obviously there's lots of other benefits for the city for energy saving grants and loans. I have Brenda here from NOPEC that can also give much more detail and in the weeds, but those were kind of the bullet points of my decision for asking you to approve us to join NOPEC. Any questions?
Mrs. Harvick-Smith.
Thank you, Councilman Booth. My question is, on the previous aggregates when they came out, so this was just for electricity, this one. So when it comes out, will the residents have to do anything, or will they automatically be in it unless they opt out? I kind of prefer that because posters come and people don't respond and they think it's junk mail.
Right.
And I think previously that's how we did it. They were automatically in it unless they say, no, I don't want to be in it.
Yes. This is
So-
just a continuation of your current existing opt-out program. We will just send letters out prior to the expiration of your existing program in May. People will get letters in the mail. They will give them all the details, just like you've had in previous terms. Gives them all the information on the terms, rates, everything they need to know. If they don't opt out, then they're in. That's why it's an opt-out program. But if someone makes a decision, or by lack of opting out, they make a decision, and they want to get out, there's never a cancellation fee. They can leave at any time. So it's really, it's really a benefit to your residents to have an opt-out program.
Can they enter into it at any time also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, if they
So
move
if they miss
in.
it and they moved here, or if they say they switched,
Yes.
they opted out and they're like, oh, that was a bad decision because now it went up 6 months later, they can
Yes.
still get in.
And the nice thing I'll go to this if it's okay. The nice thing about the NOPEC program is we do have an umbrella of options. So we have the opt-out price that you'll get, and that's not been set yet because that's, it's in May, so it's a little ways out. But you'll have the opt-out price that everyone can get. But let's say you've got someone who really wants to have 100% renewable. They can opt into that under the NOPEC umbrella. So they're not out in the marketplace where there's a lot of predatory kind of practices. They can opt into an all-electric, green program if they want. They can opt into other programs that are under the NOPEC umbrella so they can stay safely within that safe space instead of getting out there and doing their own thing.
Mrs. Creamer.
So we're choosing the opt-out plan because I thought I read both. There's an opt-in plan and there's an opt-out plan. So with both of those options, how are we definitively going with the opt-out?
Yeah.
Because I thought that was had to be voted on.
It did, yes.
Okay.
Your electric, you have an opt-out program. That was on the ballot in 2000. So under Ohio Revised Code, in order to do an opt-out program, all of your residents have to vote on it, and they have to approve for you to have the ability to do an opt-out program. So that was done in 2000. You never have to put it on the ballot again. You've never put gas on the ballot, so your gas program is an opt-in program. If at some point you decided you wanted to make that an opt-out, you'd have to place a ballot issue on the ballot for folks to vote on and decide whether they wanted to do that. So your gas is opt-in, your electric is opt-out.
Okay, thank you. But I also understand there's a lot more benefits if we go through the NOPEC.
Yes.
So with all those benefits, are we going to be paying for those benefits with
Right.
higher prices then?
No, the way that, if I can give you a comparison of current rates. Now, I will tell you, you guys need to know this. You have 4.89 cents right now. You're never going to see that again. That's a 4-year-old price. So that's great. Everyone is really benefiting from that. But no matter what you decide, the next round, your rates are going to go up. So right now, they're in the mid-6s, 6.5, 6.7, in that range. We're right there. Everybody else is right there. So because of the size, because we've got 240 communities across 20 counties in the state, we've got size to be able to negotiate those rates. So not only can we negotiate great rates, but we can bring the other programs to bear.
So is it a 1-year term, or is it going to be a 4 or 5-year term with annual increases?
Yeah, the term is whatever the aggregation program has remaining. So electric is a 3-year opt-out term. but you're going to be joining at year 2. So we only ask communities stay for the balance of that term because the supplier goes out and purchases electricity for that expected term. At the end of that term, which would be 2 years, you're free to do whatever you'd like to do. And we'll be back to you and talking to you. There'll be so many things that will be included in your community with sponsorships and that type of thing. That's the whole reason NOPEC exists, is we exist for our members. We are a council of governments. We are a nonprofit organization. We work with all of our 240 members to provide you the program that helps you to help your residents.
Got another question for Safety Service Director Baker. What is the timeline to execute this agreement? Do we have till January, February, or is it something that we have to execute within the next 2 or 3 months?
And Brenda will probably chime in as well because there's a process and she has a timeline that I have with me on the process when you join and then doing all the things that need to be done. So the sooner the better. I mean, we're not necessarily under the gun, which is why I'm here now, so that we don't become under the gun and have to rush and make that decision. That's why I'm not asking for an emergency, the 3 reads, but to wait, I don't think would be beneficial just because of the steps that it takes. She can go over more of the steps once you join and then how far in advance they can start negotiating and getting in and what it takes to do all that. But I mean, again, it's not an emergency, which is why I didn't do emergency language, but I would rather get ahead of it than we be back here after the first of the year and then we are under the gun because of our time frame with our current contract.
How do we know this agreement pricing will be lower than our current agreement, even though it expires? How do we know that this is going to be best pricing?
Well, it's like anything you don't know. I mean, we have no way of knowing what they're going to negotiate either. And I mean, most of the, no matter who, it's not just the current place that we have a consulting agreement with, but any agency out there, you don't know their prices until they negotiate for you. And they're all usually right around the same, which is again why I thought it was beneficial to go with NOPEC because of all the other benefits, not just the aggregation. But there's no guarantees in anything when you're negotiating on what those prices would be. There's no way to know. There's no way to know what our current contract will negotiate next term either. I would have no way of knowing that. Nobody would.
If I could give you just a brief synopsis, the opt-out process is 21 days after the people get the letters in the mail. They've got 21 days to review that. But leading up to that, it's about a 2-month process because you have to get the list from the utility, you have to scrub that list from the utility, you have to make sure that you're sending to the right people and they're actually within the boundaries. So there's a lot of intricate steps that go through that whole process. So for a May start, you actually start doing that in January. You start getting that process going. So that's why it seems like May is a long way away, but from an aggregation perspective, it's right around the corner. And I just shared this with Renee. We just approved today a new community grant as well because we've got we understand that when you switch from someone to someone else, there are some educational types of things that have to happen, and there's some internal stuff that has to happen. So for a community your size, you'll be getting a $20,000 grant that you can use for education, that you can use, I mean, you can use it for anything you want, but that comes as a part of this new program. And you get that in February, March, something like that.
I just want to make a comment for those council members that have been here. I recall being presented previously on these agreements, the electric aggregation, with a dollar amount. Or am I just not recalling, Mr. Lewis? Like we had what we were going to be paying in front of us when it was brought to council.
I believe that may have been the case. However, I will also say that in my 13 years of council, this is probably the best explanation I've ever heard about the aggregation and what opting in and opting out means. So, yeah, I mean, I understand the explanation. The rates haven't gone out to bid yet. In other cases, we may have been discussing this at a different time of the year where rates were known. So, I don't know.
Mrs. Cunningham?
Thank you, Councilwoman Huth. When I was previously on council, I was in your position, and I remember when I received the paperwork, there were like 3 different companies that gave prices, but then they were responsible for which one was going to be best for the city. That's what I remember from a few years back when I was on. And then they brought it to us, and then that's when we voted on it.
Ms. Fargo, how long has NOPEC been in existence?
We're coming up on our 25th anniversary. We started in 2000 when the deregulation legislation went through, and we are the largest aggregator in the country with the most members. So we've been around for a long time. Our organization is run by our members. So all of our board members are elected or appointed officials from communities. Currently, Alliance is the location of our board member there. Their safety service director is on the board, and they vote. They determine everything that happens with NOPEC. So it's a very open process. Every November, we have a General Assembly, excuse me, which is basically our big council meeting where all the membership comes in, votes on the budget, votes on all the programming, votes on everything. So it is, we're subject to sunshine laws. The state auditor comes in and has to do our audit every 2 years, just like a municipality. So we are an open book, and I have financials if you need to see those. So it's really something that, it's great for the communities. That's why we exist, is to make you have a great program for your residents.
Thank you.
And you have packets, right?
I have packets if you want.
Yeah, we have packets that we can give all of you tonight as well, so you have time to review it if you would like them.
Let me say one thing about the process.
Yeah, sure.
Can I say one thing about the process? Adopting the plan of operation and governance will require 2 public hearings. I do these all the time. Nobody ever shows up. I did Alliance years and years ago, and Alliance did it both gas and electric at the same time. It was 3 minutes each public hearing. Anybody for, anybody for, anybody for? No. Everybody against? No. And then off we go. But we have to do them. They're statutorily required. So I don't know how you do your public hearings, whether you do them right before your council meetings or not. I was on city council in Greene, so I kind of know the drill. So we would do ours right before city council. I like to do them on the same day since there's 2 required. I like to do one like at 3 in the afternoon. So if there's people that want to come during the day, again, they don't come, but they could come at 3, and then one right before your council. That way we get them all done. And then you're free to pass the legislation that you have in front of you.
Mr. Lewis?
Well, 2 things with that information. If we need a public hearing, we probably need to get that on the books right away. 2, this is not necessarily related to this, but I'm going to add on. One of the confusions we always get about the aggregation in Massillon is that electric is opt-out and gas is opt-in. It confuses people all the time. So now that we've had a thorough explanation of why that is, we probably might, after we get through this, might be worth our time looking into a ballot initiative to bring gas to align with electric and make them both opt-out programs. That way there's not confusion, because you get citizens all the time. What is this one? Is this an opt-in? Is this an opt-out? If we make them both the same, then citizens know. In both cases, you would have the same process. Possibly.
Thank you for that.
And if I could say one more thing. So as a part of that process, being a NOPEC member, we help you through that ballot process. So if you feel like there's some educational component, put stuffers in the bills of your water, your water bill, whatever you think best reaches your customers and your constituents, to let them know. Educational, not saying vote yes or no, but educational only. We do provide that. As well as you go through the opt-out process, we will give you links to our website. We'll give you data or information materials that can go on your website that will help folks to understand what's going on. If you need social media, if you need whatever you need, we will work with you so that we can best get the information out to your residents.
Any other questions? Thank you both. Should we schedule the public hearings now or take it to first reading first?
I guess I do get a voice in that. I would say go ahead and schedule the public hearings, because we can always cancel them if something came up that we didn't need them. That's how I'd look at it.
Well, it would have to become an ordinance first.
Well, when will you assign it its number?
It'll be for the September 16th meeting, if it's on the, if you approve to put it on the agenda.
I mean, you could, we don't have to wait till Monday to schedule a hearing.
Diane says we need a number.
Give it a number.
It has to be an official ordinance.
So these.
I do believe on the agenda, and then I can contact the paper the next day, Tuesday, to schedule a public hearing.
Law Director, Assistant, Mr. Mack.
Front and center, sir.
And I don't disagree that Diane's following procedure, but so if we know we need a public hearing for this, and what, we have to give like a 30-day notice?
2 weeks. 2 weeks, I'm hearing from my colleagues.
So a 2-week notice. So
One time in 2 weeks proceeding. Has to be publicized
Right.
twice.
we can have Attorney Wise up here if he knows the answer.
Hey! I will defer.
No offense, Mr. Mack.
He's going full disclosure. I have the NOPEC person in my ear, so. It's my understanding it has to be published 2 times, once in each of the 2 weeks preceding the meeting.
The date.
So, but the question is when, so Diane is making the point that until it's an official ordinance, how do we have a public hearing on it? And I'm asking, why don't we just give it a number tomorrow, and now it's an ordinance? We've already signed off to put it on the agenda and get it listed next week.
Well, if it gets put on for next week, then you'll assign an ordinance number this week. And you can schedule it, because you're going to give it 3 readings, I assume. I mean, I assumed the public hearing was going to be about a month out. So I don't see any
Is
reason.
the question is, can we determine the date tonight, or do we need to wait for this to be officially recorded?
I don't see harm in waiting till Monday to set up public hearing. Is that a fair
That's fine.
compromise?
I'm just trying to release Diane to be able to do what she needs to do and not have to ask us again.
So,
Okay.
sure. Thank you.
It's also not going to matter, Julie, because, I mean, Holly, because if we, on the 16th, we wouldn't be able to do it again until, what is that, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, like the 7th of October anyways, before we have another meeting.
There's time. Very good. And then there's subsequent, again, there's 2 pieces. The first is to enter the agreement, and then to approve the operation and governance. So they go hand in hand. So we'll talk about that again on Monday. Thank you.
And thank you, Diane, as well. Streets and highways? Whoever's covering that?
I guess it was on my desk, so I guess I'm covering it. So I have one item that falls under old business, and it is enacting Chapter 558, Tree Removal Program, under Part 5, General Offenses Code of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Massillon, and declaring an emergency. So this is the program that was discussed previously with us. Does anyone have any questions regarding this tree removal program? Seeing none? Yes, Mr. Packley?
Could you give me some detail on that?
Well, we can bring up administration to give us an overview. Mr. Burgasper, can you come up? I can't, Mr. Packley, I can't remember like the dollar amounts, but I know he wants to use up funds this year.
Good evening, Mr. Creamer. Mr. Packley, congratulations.
Thank you.
So the tree program is, if you don't mind, it is an effort to remove trees that are diseased, overgrown, dead, or obstructive in the right-of-way or in the tree lawn. And what we propose is a 50% match for tree removal and stump removal. The tree removal and stump removal, again, tree lawn, right-of-way. I have about $30,000 that I can earmark for that effort. What we're trying to do is remove dangerous trees before they come down in a storm or before they have other issues with them. Invariably, people call this tree is dead and it's your responsibility, it's your tree because it's in the tree lawn, when the ordinance clearly states that it is the resident's responsibility to maintain the tree lawn. So we're trying to be proactive instead of reactive. I like people who are happy with me and not angry.
That is the goal.
Yes.
So who makes the determination on which tree is deemed dangerous or undesirable? Who makes the determination?
First of all, it's an application process. The applications come with 2 quotes. Obviously, the tree company would be the first determiner as to whether that is diseased, overgrown, whatever. And then I would determine what follows with that.
So if there were to be a dispute where if it were my yard and I had a tree in my yard in the tree lawn and I didn't want it to be removed, I mean, can the city force that upon the individual?
The answer to that question is yes, sir, through code enforcement, not through this program.
Okay.
This program is geared toward the residents coming to us instead of us going to.
It's for the willing participants?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Burgasser.
Mr. Craig?
Thank you, Mrs. Creamer. I had one question. We talked about tree removal, but would this program also cover tree trimming if the tree's not necessarily needs to be totally removed, but it's overgrown, causing site issues perhaps, but other than that, it's okay?
So, Mr. Gregg, this is a tree removal and stump removal program. If it is a maintenance program, what I would look to do currently, let's say it's a right-of-way issue and it's covering a stop sign. I trim those trees. And currently, the resident pays nothing. I don't think that's fair to the other taxpayers, but that's what we have to do in order to get the stop sign visible. But this program would not be related to that. And again, there are steps with that. Code enforcement usually is involved, and they will go knock on doors and say, hey, you need to maintain your tree, et cetera, et cetera. And depending on how long that process takes or what the danger is, I may just do it.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, this program is just for removal and
Yes.
stump removal, not
Trimming an obstructed
That's
tree
done
or
as
an
separate.
overgrown tree or a dead tree is not what we're about.
Okay,
We want to
thank-
remove it.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? So this will be up for second reading on Monday. It does have emergency language. So if this is brought forward on Monday and passed, how is this going to be communicated to residents? Is it going to be placed on our webpage? I'm just trying to, since we have $35,000 for this year to get this done, just how are we going to move forward knowing that we're moving into fall and
Sure.
spending money?
First of all, Mrs. Creamer, I only have 30. Please don't, I don't have 5
sorry.
more. But
Sorry about that.
with respect to that, I intend to blast it on social media. I intend to put the application on the website. I really intend to try and spend all of that money. Obviously, I need the application. I'm in the midst of doing that application right now, but the budget transfer is ready to go, so.
Okay, well, thank you. I will be bringing this forward on Monday. We're up for a vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Second item, I have a new item following under new business. Please prepare legislation to authorize the Director of Public Safety and Service to sign the consent legislation with ODOT for preventive pavement maintenance, including asphalt inlays on State Route 21 within the City of Massillon, PID 116098. Whereas the state has identified the need to perform this project located within the corporation limits of the City of Massillon. Per section 5521.01 of the Ohio Revised Code, the Director of Transportation is required to request and receive legislation from municipalities prior to making any necessary repairs or replacements to state highways within the corporate limits. The state shall assume and bear 100% of the cost of the improvement. And it does have emergency language as requested by the Ohio Department of Transportation. If someone from administration would come up and please speak to council regarding this request.
Good evening, Council. Yes, just as the language on the legislative request states, it is to perform asphalt inlay preventative maintenance along State Route 21. 100% of the cost goes to ODOT. It's kind of like the legislation that we had brought forth earlier in the year for State Route 30 for the crack sealing program. So very similar. ODOT just needs our consent legislation to move forward, so.
Can you specify, like, from start to stop, like, where exactly on 21?
Yeah, so I have the, I'll have to give that to you tomorrow. I can send you the map. I have a capital improvement planning map from ODOT that's published on their website that I have saved on my computer. I can give that to you tomorrow if that's okay.
Do you know the total amount of this project?
It's $540,000. I checked it before coming, so.
So it's both north and south?
Correct.
Got it. Ms. Cunningham?
Thank you, Mrs. Kramer. Mr. Pitts, when you say the inlaid, is that, because I had a person who rides a motorcycle say, is there anything that could be done with 21 in through town because they hit those cracks and it's bump, 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 bump. Is that where the repair is going to be?
Correct. Yes.
Oh, he'll be really excited.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, so.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all I have for community development. Streets and highways, too.
All right, our next piece for finance.
Excuse me,
We're in finance?
Mr. Lewis, you
Oh,
skipped rules and courts.
Sorry.
I know I don't talk often, so maybe you forgot about me, but I do have 3 new items just to mention. These deal with our contracts with city workers. One of them is the Massillon FOP Henderson Lodge Police Officers Association Blue Unit. Another one is the ASME Ohio Council 8 Local 996 AFL-CIO for streets and parks. And the third is ASME Ohio Council 8 Local 996 AFL-CIO for the wastewater treatment plant. As these deal with personnel matters, we need to discuss these in executive session, which we can't do during a work session. So my proposal is that we go ahead and, if my committee members agree, we'll put this on the agenda for Monday with the expectation we'll go into executive session prior to voting and discuss them at that point. Any questions about that? Sound good? That's all I've got.
Well, that was so eloquently stated. I'm sorry I skipped you.
See what you miss out on?
Speaking of, are we going to have any updates about the game this week from either one of our two fans?
I'd be happy.
We're going to have shout out. Oh, excuse me. We will have a shout out. We can forget it's over, it's done with, so we're going to move on forward.
All right. Go Tigers.
Absolutely. TIG.
ERS. All right.
I would like to say, I can't. The young men played well. They played hard. It was a very, very good team they played against. They didn't give up, and I think they gave their all, and this is all we can expect from them. And I know they're going to be ready to go for next week, so go Tigers.
Perfect. All right, now finance, if everybody's okay with me doing that. Thank you. The first piece we have is please prepare an ordinance authorizing the auditor of the city of Massillon, Ohio to enter into a contract with Clark Schaefer Hackett and Company and the Ohio Auditor of State to provide services for the annual audits of the city of Massillon for the fiscal year period of January 1, 24 through December 31st of 28. And you can see the attached agreement. If we can have the deputy auditor come forward, please. This is a pretty standard thing that we do, but I did want her to come up, and she's here, so we might as well make use of her presence, and she can explain it a little bit more to council.
Good evening. Yes, our last contract ended with the 2023 fiscal year audit, so we do need to get a new one. And this year, the Auditor of State sent out that we can renew with our current auditor for an additional 4 years, and that is Clark Schaefer, so that is their contract is attached.
And this is the same audit we've been going through annually and that we've actually been performing quite well on, correct?
Yes, we actually received another audit of excellence in audit from the state of Ohio this year.
Anybody else have any questions? All right, thank you once again.
All right, thank you.
I will sign this and place this on the agenda. It does have emergency language on it as well. Then we have two transfers. One transfer is in the health department, reducing service and contracts and placing it into travel and seminar and schooling. It's to realign the budget for the year. Any questions? All right, just so that everybody knows, primarily when I say everybody, I mean Mr. Packley. Transfers we read off. But once two members of finance sign them, we don't see them again. It's just transferring money between two like accounts. Okay, just so you know.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
No problem. The next one is for the fire department. We would be reducing base wage and salary by $60,000, placing that into comp pay, reducing travel and schooling by $5,000, EMS billing and overpayment by $7,000, supplies and materials by $15,000, gas and oil by $15,000. Overtime would be increased then by said $42,000. It says to realign the budget, but as we discussed in a previous meeting, due to injuries and other matters within the fire department, they have been a little bit short. And many of the men and women that work in that department have had to work extra shifts, causing the need for the overtime and comp time to be paid out. Any further questions? Ms. Harwick-Smith?
Is this expected to make them meet their budget through the rest of the year then?
Ms. Katagides-Boron? Oh, no. Chief, sorry. Chief. Sure.
Good evening. No, the simple answer to your question.
Okay.
So we did an appropriation earlier in the year to kind of do about what we thought to get us into where we are now. we're back to now 3 vacancies with additional 2 people off on extended leave, so it's just been a rough year. But this will not get us to the end. It gets us closer. We're closer to the fourth quarter. We have a better idea where we are with some budget line items going forward. But you'll probably see us again, probably October, to get us through the rest of the year. So,
And to be clear, Chief, these are extended leaves, so these aren't vacancies that you can go hire. These are vacancies that are due to injury or whatever.
currently, 3 of them are vacancies that we are in the middle of the hiring process. 2 of them are extended leaves due to injury. Previously, we had 9 that were off on injury or sick leave. That we just never had that before.
Wow.
So, and I don't know how you budget for that. So,
Right. Thank you.
yep.
Thank you very much. All right. With that said, that is all I have for finance this evening. What's that?
You mentioned committee of the whole discussion.
Yes. So I have a couple more things that I wanted to review tonight. One of those being that with the addition of Mr. Packley replacing Mr. Snee, we do have to, per rule, assign Mr. Packley a committee to chair and 2 committees to sit on. The simplest way I'll put forth as a possibility would be that we simply slide Mr. Packley into the same positions held by Mr. Snee, as long as no one objects.
Sounds good to me.
That looks like economic development, police and fire.
Chairs, streets and highways.
And then chairing streets and highways.
Yes.
Okay.
That would be fine.
Ms. Rowland, do you mind preparing the resolution for Monday to that effect?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And Mr. Packley, I would need to get your email information, address, and all that good stuff.
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
what I'd like to do is, before you get to the meeting Monday, is send you the packet that was sent out for the work session and the council meeting prior to you being appointed. That'll bring you up to speed as to what we're talking about come Monday.
That would be helpful.
Okay, all right.
Did I make any other mistakes, Ms. Rowland? No, sir. All right, you caught me on my one? All right. Thank you. One last piece of business. I want to throw our mayor a little curveball and ask if he'd like to speak tonight, anything about the big announcement that came out today? You might want your economic development guy to come with you, I'm assuming. Maybe not, I don't know. And you'll be doing autographs afterwards?
They don't know. Good evening, council. So the big news today, we were on the cover of, or we had an article on Crane's magazine. It's a business magazine in Northeast Ohio to announce Babcock and Wilcox plan to open a hydrogen plant here in the city of Massillon over in the old Republic Steel site. It's approximately on 3 acres. It's roughly a $60 million project that's going forward here. And Ted, Mr. Hurricane can come up and speak more about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, this project, the property owners of the former Republic site, it is formerly called the Massillon Energy and Technology Park. It is basically the same 460 acres as the Republic site. Garrett Klutz is the vice president there and has worked on this for a very long time. We've known about it for a long time as well. As the mayor said, it's sits on about 2 to 3 acres, and it will employ about 10 to 15 people initially. This is the first phase. The key thing to know here is the significant investment number from Babcock and Wilcox. $60 million is really a lot of money to invest in this technology and this process that they're using. They don't call it a trial, they call it an operation, production, startup, from the point that this is the first phase of what will be multiple phases. They do have an option on another 25 acres at the industrial park. I don't exactly know where it sits. I believe it's a little bit to the west on that property. We met with the representatives from BNW, and I should say Babcock and Wilcox, so people don't think we're building cars out there. Babcock and Wilcox, 2 or 3 times over the last couple months. They're very excited about this. They have some really great partners from throughout the country that have invested in this, and we're really excited because this really leads to the energy and technology name of that site, and it's kind of the culmination of a lot of years of hard work from the private developer. Specifically, they get all the credit for this, to bring this project here. It really says a lot about our ability for innovation, and we're excited to see how this, what this leads. We know they've already talked to at least one property owner in the general area that are interested in going on to the hydrogen power system, which would take them off the electric grid, which is positive. So we're excited to see the applications for this in the future. Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. This, I would like to speak to the mayor, please. Mr. Mayor, I had the opportunity to see a show titled How Not to Bury a Body last week on ID, and you look a lot thinner in real life than you did on camera, but you did a very nice job, and what I really was impressed with, their cameraman, was how Massillon looked terrific. I go, that's Massillon? We should go up in the sky farther, and then we can look around to how they filmed it. But that was a very, very good show, and I thought that was very well done.
Councilwoman Cunningham, you know the camera adds 10 pounds.
Oh, I thought it was 20.
No, it was a case I handled as a police detective in the police department back in 2017, and I was contacted last summer from the Discovery ID producers to do a show on it. So that was the premiere show on their new series, How Not to Get Rid of How Not to Bury a Body is, I believe, what it was. So,
if I can get copies, would you autograph them?
It was a lot of hard work, not just myself, but the detective bureau. A lot of officers were involved in that. So the credit all goes to everybody in the police department that did great work on that case. So it wasn't just me, it was a team effort.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.